tell you one thing: if I'm in a dungeon, and I know that they're coming to cut my head off, I'm not going to know how to fight. Like as soon as you open that cell door, we're throwing hands. We are fighting.
And there was another thing was trial by combat. Trial by combat was a thing. Like it's not fictional. It was a real thing that people would do. It wasn't super common.
Trial by combat.
Trial by combat. So if you were like see back then they didn't really have a way to prove crimes. Like if someone committed a crime and nobody saw them commit the crime, but you're pretty sure they committed the crime, there was only one way to get them imprisoned. Like to take the fall for what they did or what you think they did. And that was by trial by combat. Like you oust them, you say this person committed this crime. I can't prove it, so we're gonna let God decide who's right. And what that means is essentially you both go into a ring, a pit of sand usually, with swords, and you just fight to the death. And whoever wins was chosen by God to win.
So that's why they did that.
Mm-hmm.
I figured, okay, I didn't think that had any like religious meaning. I thought that they would just do that just because they wanted something to do.
I mean,
they're just like, hey, I'm
yeah.
bored, you're bored. We got these two guys that could fight to the death. Well, let's let them fight to the death.
Mm-hmm. And like there were certain rules for certain like areas. Like Vikings had a set of rules, but mainly it was like if somebody questioned your honor, then you duel to see who's right.
What do you mean question your honor?
Like if somebody accused you of something that you didn't do, or maybe you did do, but you didn't want to know it, and they couldn't prove it. Like if someone accused you of being unfaithful, like you've been sleeping around, and even though you have a wife, and they'd accuse you of that, and you say, "How dare you?" And you challenge them to a duel to decide who's right, and whoever wins the duel is right. So to fight to the death.
No, whoever wins the duel is better.
Yeah. There was a difference back then. Being right and being better there was no difference.
So I mean, you know for sure there was some guy that was just like an ungodly like fighter, and he was probably just lying about everything, cheating on his wife, and everybody like calls him out, and then he just murders everybody.
I mean, even if you're like a really good fighter, like sword play is so dangerous because they wouldn't be wearing armor; they'd just be wearing cloth, like just straight cloth. And even if you win the fight, if you get hit by like a really 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 like bad blow, you're still dead. It doesn't matter how good you are; even the best might slip up every now and then.
Oh yeah, because if you get injured, then they're just going to take you to the doctor who's going to kill you anyway.
So, yeah, because it was like remember, it doesn't look like how it does in the shows and the movies. It's not like really wide telegraph swings. Like it's lightning fast. Like when people are sword fighting, it was lightning fast. Like in real, like if you watch World Star, like it doesn't look how it does in the movies. Like fist fights don't look like they do in the movies. It's lightning fast. Like you blink and you miss it, and somebody's on the floor bloody. It's not like super slow motion.
Yeah, because they're like legitimately fighting for their life.
Yeah, and same thing with swords. Like it's lightning fast, and it's like duels usually didn't last more than seconds. Like somebody was gonna be dead within the first 3 swings, almost always.
I wonder if like anybody ever tried like an old like oh let's shake hands, oh like stab him.
I mean probably, but if people see you do that, they're probably gonna execute you anyway for being unhonorable.
That's true. I forgot that they can just execute you for anything.
And any reason that they come up with.
Do you think anybody? Well, I'm sure the answer is yes, but I wonder if anybody ever just like two guys ever just like sword fought to the death for fun.
I mean, for fun. Like I don't think they just do it for fun.
Like two guys that like don't like each other, but they don't have a they're not like calling each other out. They just want to fight, so they're just like let's just do it.
Well, there was another form of trial by combat called First Blood. So whoever draws blood first is the winner. So you're not going for lethal. You're just trying to draw blood. So you just get cut across the arm. That's the end of the duel. Duel stops instantly.
So what if you hit him with a really good one?
And you accidentally kill him? Oops.
Well, accidentally.
But yeah,
Like you're just trying to draw blood, but it's like, I mean, I took his head off and the blood came out.
I tripped and my sword went through him. I mean, he kind of stumbled into it, so that's kind of like his fault, you know.
Yeah.
So
You see, he was charging at me, and I just
yeah,
happened to stick my sword out. So,
hmm
I mean, this whole thing is his fault.
honestly, yeah.
I mean, I didn't put the hole in his chest. He did that to himself.
hmm
And they're like, well, we're going to execute you anyway.
I mean, usually if someone died in a first blood duel, I'm pretty sure they just won. Like
Well,
it was an
yeah,
accident.
what else are you supposed to do?
Yeah,
Then the first blood duel just turns into a duel to the death.
yeah, accidentally. Anyways,
So
it's like,
these people obviously did not have living a long time in mind at all.
oh no, because like the life expectancy back then was like, if you got at 50, you were ancient. Most people died around 40, like 40 flat. That's when most people died.
So like, jeez. So like whenever you're 30, you're like, my time's almost up.
Yeah, when you were 30, that's pretty old. Like you were getting there.
Like 30 was like the equivalent of like today's like 70.
Yeah, because you remember, like back then, people were generally smaller and weaker than humans now. Like people used to think like, oh, people are so weak nowadays. No, if you went back in like an average sized man, and you went back to the medieval period, you're a big guy and you're strong compared to everyone else around you. They might have more grip strength, but you've got like a head and a half height over top of them. The average height was like 5 foot back in those days. Like people were small back in
Really?
those days. hmm But people were small, and they were generally pretty weak too because their diets were horrible.
Well,
Unless you
yeah,
were
they're probably just eating whatever they could find.
whatever they could find. Like the average guy's gonna have barely any meat on him. He's gonna be like 5 foot. He's gonna be pretty easy to take down.
Yeah.
Like they were scrappy, sure, but weak and small.
Were the Vikings really strong?
Strong, yeah. It wasn't. They were tall-ish. They were taller than normal. Like, cause like Vikings were different because they had, instead of just like living off the land, they went around and stole everything that everyone else had, and they were a warrior culture. So like it was the strongest. The strongest people got like paired up with the strongest people. So like they were like the biggest, strongest women were paired up with the biggest, strongest men, and so that just naturally makes bigger, stronger people.
Yeah.
So it's a warrior culture. So like the Vikings were the biggest, strongest, toughest people of their time. So naturally they were really, really scary.
That would be terrifying.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if you were like 6'8" or something back then?
You'd be
Everybody's
an
just like
actual giant.
looking up at you like, oh man.
Yeah. And that's a huge advantage because like the sheer amount of reach you'd have, especially if you get like a really big weapon, no one's gonna be able to beat you. Like no, unless they hit you with a crossbow or a bow. If they get in a melee range of you, you're gonna be able to take them out pretty easily.
Yeah. Say you're like a Viking, like you jump on somebody else's boat, and then like whole boat rocks, and they're like, oh, who is that? And then you just see some giant monster. You're like, oh man, yep, I'm going back under the deck.
Especially if you had armor. If you're a big guy and you have lots of armor on, like you got some thick chainmail, or even especially if you have plate armor, and you're like 6'5" plate armor, and you have like a Zweihander, like those massive great swords, you're unstoppable. Nothing's gonna be able to take you down except for like a crossbow bolt or an artillery piece.
Everybody just runs out of your way. They're just like, I don't even want to mess with this guy.
Yeah.
Wait, they had crossbows back then?
I mean, we're kind of like jumping all over the place. Crossbows were like, I don't. They came into practice around 1200, 12 for 1300. So yeah, medieval ages. Yeah, they had crossbows.
That's old.
Yeah, been around for a while. Mainly in the western area, like Western Italian area, is when they first came up. I think.
I wonder how they had, they had regular bows, right?
But regular bows have been around since the dawn of man.
So I'm sure the regular bows the weight was probably like incredibly hard to pull back.
Well, it depends on the bow, because like there was short bows, which were like the first bows people made and used, which are not that different. They weren't designed to shoot very long ranges. They weren't designed to be very heavy or very powerful. They had recurve bows, which were much more difficult to like make. They were a lot more like intricate, but they could get a lot more distance, and they were a lot more powerful. And you had long bows, and long bows are the dangerous ones. Like the long bows, I think it was the British that had them first, and British Isles, Saxons, and those things were terrifying. Like the British instantly became the most dangerous military in the world once they invented longbows, because longbows are just that dangerous. Like they're so dangerous.
Jeez. Well, I'm sure they probably had to have shot 2, 3, 4 times harder than anything else.
Well, it's mainly the range, because a longbow, like 100-pound longbow, 80 to 100 pounds is like what the normal yeomen would it be called? You know, the archers the British people had. That'd be the average poundage, and that stuff can go like almost a mile. If it's heavy enough poundage and you're good enough, you could get that. You could get up to a mile, I believe, in range.
Well, most bows these days aren't even like 80 to 100 pounds.
Yeah.
Like now, like a good, like a really good like hunting bow, like a compound hunting bow, is probably 60 to 70 pound pull. Probably
Mm-hmm.
it's probably about average.
But compound's designed to be easier to draw back.
I mean, true, but it's still 60 to 70 pounds.
Yeah. But like compared to what everyone else had with their short bows, like the difference between a long bow and a short bow, like a 20-pound, 30-pound versus an 80 to 100-pound is huge. Like that's a massive difference.
How do you think, like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like one, I guess, like clan or like country or whatever, whoever's fighting together.
Mm-hmm.
If these people, say the English people had longbows, and then somebody else had like these short bows, is the only way that these people figure out longbows is from these people? Like
Usually,
they
yeah,
kill
they
one
copy.
of them and get a hold of it, and they're just like, oh, what is this thing? And they try to like recreate it.
Yeah, because like the British, the longbows are so like unique to the British. Like other people tried making similar things, but they were just never as good. Like I'm pretty sure the Vikings actually had like an early type of longbow. Like they were kind of like longbows, but not as good, nowhere near as good. But like that's why crossbows were invented to be the answer to longbows. I'm pretty sure. Like crossbows were put up against bows because they had less range, but they hit harder. So like a crossbow could square off with the longbow relatively well. It took longer to load, didn't have as much range, but they hit harder. Like you could pierce armor with a crossbow. And like longbows wouldn't always pierce armor.
Because there had to be like the first person to do like everything that's been done. So like whenever there's like a war going on, there had to be the first person to make the cannon.
Yeah.
So like they went to war with someone and they're over here like shooting crossbows or whatever, and then they just hear like a boom, and then like a cannonball comes at them, and they're like, "Whoa, hold on, what is this? We got to get one of these."
I think that exact thing happened at the siege of Constantinople with the Ottomans, the Ottoman Empire. I forget what it was, maybe 1000s, 1100s, probably like 1100s, something like that. It was pretty early on in history because I believe the Ottomans were the first people to use cannons. Strangely enough, and they brought these massive cannons that shot. That at the time they had stone cannonballs, like massive stone cannonballs, like 5 foot wide stone cannonballs, and the cannons were huge. Like these things would be like 6 foot in diameter, like huge cannons. And they just fired. They pulled them up to the walls of Constantinople, and the walls of Constantinople were known for being like the most fortified walls in the entire world. It doesn't get better than the Theodosian walls of Constantinople. And the Ottomans cannons showed up, and the visitors were like, "Yeah, we'll be fine." I'm not sure what that thing does, but I'm sure no one's ever breached the walls before, so we'll be fine. And the cannons show up, boom, and then a massive chunk of the wall goes down, and panic breaks out. People are like shocked at what's happening.
Like, what did they just do?
Yeah.
Nobody else has ever done this. I don't know I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, we've been going for pretty much about 2 hours. So I don't have anything. I don't have anything interesting to say.
All right.
Do you have anything else?
No, I can think of.